YouTube, welcome back to my channel. Today we're here to continue with a read aloud, read along of Maya Angelou's second memoir, Gathered Together in My Name. We've been reading together chapters of this book, and there's a playlist down below if you'd like to pick up with earlier chapters of this book, or if you want to start with the first book in her memoir series. You can go through the playlist and see earlier videos. We are here today to pick up on chapter 21, which in this edition of the book starts on page 119. If you have a copy of the book, I invite you to read along with me. Otherwise, you can just listen to me read. In the previous chapter, our main character was just rejected from the United States Army. So she's about to try to make the next step in her life, and that's where we pick up in chapter 21. So let's read. I took a job as swing shift waitress in a day and night restaurant called the Chicken Shack. The record player blared the latest hits incessantly, and the late night clientele spent their overflow energy loudly in the brightly lighted booths. Smoking grass eased the strain for me. I made a connection at a restaurant nearby. People called it Mary Jane, hash, grass, gauge, weed, pot, and I had absolutely no fear of using it. In a black ghetto of the 40s, marijuana, cocaine, hop, opium, and heroin were only a little harder to obtain than rationed whiskey. Although my mother didn't use anything but scotch, black and white, she often sang a song popular in the 30s that at its worst didn't condemn grass, and at its best extolled its virtues. Dream about a reefer 5 foot long, vitamin but not too strong. You'll be high but not for long if you're a viper. I'm the queen of everything. I got to get high before I can swing. Light some tea and let it be if you're a viper. Now, when your throat gets dry, you know you're high. Everything is dandy. You truck on down to the candy store and bust your conch on peppermint candy. Then, you know your brown body scent. You don't give a damn if you don't pay your rent. Light some tea and let it be if you're a viper. I learned new postures and developed new dreams. From a natural stiffness, I melted into a grinning tolerance. Walking on the streets became high adventure. Eating my mother's huge dinners, an opulent entertainment. And playing with my son was side-cracking hilarity. For the first time, life amused me. Positive dreaming was introduced on long, slow drags of the narcotic. I was going to do all right in the world, going to have it made, and no doubt through the good offices of a handsome man who would love me to distraction. My charming prince was going to appear out of the blue and offer me a cornucopia of goodies. I would only have to smile to have them brought to my feet. R.L. Poole was to prove my dreams at least partially prophetic. When I opened the door to his ring and informed him that I was Rita Johnson, his already long face depressed another inch. The dancer? His voice was slow and cloudy. Dancer? Of course. I had been a cook, waitress, madam, busgirl. Why not a dancer? After all, it was the only thing I had studied. Yes, I'm a dancer. I looked at him boldly. Why? I'm looking for a dancer to work with me. I thought he might be a talent scout for a chorus line, or maybe the big stage show featuring colored dancers called Change Your Luck. Come in. We sat at the dining room table and I offered a coffee. He looked me over, one feature at a time. My legs long, my hips spare, my breasts nearly non-existent. He drank the coffee slowly. I've studied since I was 14, I said. If the U.S. Army was going to penalize me for having gone to the California Labor School, it was just possible that someone else would find the time spent there valuable. I was right. His eyes moved from an examination of my body back to my face. I'm Poole, from Chicago. His announcement held no boast, and I was sure that represented sophistication rather than false modesty. I do rhythm, tap, and I want a girl partner. She doesn't have to do much but flash. Are you Adva? Flash and AGVA were words unknown to me. I sat quietly and looked at him. Let him figure it out for himself. I met the woman at the record shop and she told me about you, said all you talked about was dancing. She gave me your address. Some cats from the locals, musicians, straightened me out with a contract for a few gigs. Scale is $22.50, but I'll do a few under scale to get some ends together. I hadn't the slightest notion of what he was talking about. Scale, advert, gigs, local, ends. More coffee? I went into the kitchen, walking like a model, chin down and sternum up, and my tailbone tucked under like white women. I put on a fresh pot of coffee and tried desperately to decide on a role for myself. Should I be mysterious and sultry, asking nothing, answering all questions with a knowing smirk, or should I be the open, friendly, palsy, every boy's sister, girl next door type? No decision came to my mind, so I went back into the dining room, my legs stuck together with fine decorum. What did you study? Ballet, modern ballet and the theory of dance. I made it sound like advanced thermonuclear propulsion. His face fell again. Any tap dancing? No. Jazz? No. Acrobatics? No. I was losing him, so I jumped in the gap. I used to win every jitterbug contest. I can do the Texas hop, the off time, the boogie woogie, the camel walk, the new coup de grace, and I can do the split. With that, I stood up, straddle-legged, and looked down into his sad face. Then I began to slide down to the floor. I was unprepared for the movement. I had on a straight skirt, but RL was less ready than I. As my legs slipped apart and down, I lifted my arms in the graceful ballet position number 1 and watched the impresario's face raise from mild interest to incredulous. My hem caught mid-thigh and I felt my equilibrium teeter. With a quick sleight of hand, I jerked up my skirt and continued my downward glide. I hummed a little snatch of song during the last part of the slither and kept my mind on Sonia Henny in her cute little tutus. Unfortunately, I hadn't practiced the split in months, so my pelvic bones resisted with force. I was only 2 inches from the floor and I gave a couple of little bounces. I accomplished more than I planned. My skirt seams gave before my bones surrendered. Then my left foot got caught between the legs of Mother's heavy oak table and the other foot jumped at the gas heater and captured the pipe that ran from the jets into the wall. Pinned down at my extremities with the tendons in my legs screaming for ease, I felt as if I were being crucified to the floor. But in true show must go on fashion, I kept my back straight and my arms uplifted in a position that would have made Pavlova proud. Then I looked at RL to see what impression I was making. Pity in my predicament was drawing him up from his chair, and solicitude was written over his face with a brush wider than a kitchen mop. My independence and privacy would not allow me to accept help. I lowered my arms and balanced my hands on the floor and jerked my right foot. It held on to the pipe, so I jerked again. I must have been in excellent shape. The pipe came away from the stove and gas hissed out steadily like 10 fat men resting on a summer's day. RL stepped over me and looked down into the gas jet. Goddamn. He swiveled over to the window and opened it as wide as it would go, then back down to the stove. Near the wall at the end of the pipe, he found a tap and turned it. The hissing died and the thick, Swedish odor diluted. I had still to extricate my other leg from the avaricious table. RL lifted an edge of the table and my ankle was miraculously free. I could have gotten up, but my feelings were so hurt by the stupid clumsiness that I just rolled over on my stomach, beat my hands on the floor, and cried like a baby. There was no doubt that R.L. Poole had just witnessed his strangest audition. He could have walked down the hall and out the door, leaving me breathing in the dust of the ancient rug, but he didn't. I heard the chair creak, announcing that he had sat back down. I was sure he was doing his best to hold in his laughter. I tried for more tears to irritate him and force him to leave, but the tear ducts had closed, and the sound I made was as false as a showgirl's eyelashes. Nothing for it but to get up. I dried my face with dusty hands and lifted my head. R.L. was sitting at the table in the same chair, his head propped up with his hand. The dark brown face was somber, and he said quietly, "Well, anyway, you've got nice legs." When we went to a nearby rehearsal hall, I was amazed to see R.L. Poole move. The wind seemed to make him dance. I pictured his lean, bony legs as being attached directly to his sharp shoulders with skeletal pins, for he would hunch his shoulders and glide across the rehearsal hall floor, his heels and toes tapping below him in a fusillade of small explosions, his arms dangling at his side, his face a pockmarked oval. He tried to simplify the intricate tap rhythms by singing them to me in a rough, low voice. Boom, boom, boo-rah, 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 brah, brah. Sharp slaps on the floor, dust rising from the old wood. With the polish of a professional, R.L. made it all appear easy. I telescoped my energy on the gliding steps of the flash, with no less purpose than a ballet student mastering a tour jeté. I would raise my arms shoulder high, then open them out slowly, taking 2 sliding steps. Bend one knee and hold the position. An accomplished flash partner frames and highlights the principal dancer when he's tapping out complex rhythms. To be able to let my body swing free over the floor and the crushing failures in my past was freedom. I thanked RL for my liberation and fell promptly in love with him. So that was chapter 21. We'll be back next time to continue with chapter 22. I hope you'll join me for the read. Give me a thumbs up if you like this video. Subscribe if you want to see more. I'd love to chat with you in the comments as well. Let me know how you're enjoying this book. And until next time, happy reading. Bye.